warm welcome to Nina George and to our very special reader today. Her name is Debjani. Welcome, Dona. Hi.
Thank you.
Hi, hi.
So
Hi,
we are.
Meenakshi. Hi, Dona. Happy New Year.
Happy New
Thank you
Year.
very much. Same to you. Same to everyone.
Thank
So today we are here to have another conversation with the reader. And Nina George, our author, is also here. The book we are talking about is Just a Miracle. It's a memoir from Nina, and it talks about her tryst with infertility. So, Devjani, when you picked up the book, what was your expectation and how do you feel about it after reading it?
So I went through a wide range of emotions while reading through the book. So when I started, the expectation was probably like the do's and don'ts for a reader on how to deal with people who are going through a problem like infertility. But soon I realized this book was more like what I should say, like a warm friend who's sitting and literally talking to you. It's not a very preachy, very talking at you kind of a book. You understand? It's like a person who's simply telling her story, and through those snippets and moments of her life, you get to realize so many things actually can resonate in whatever situation you yourself are in. And but to summarize, I actually realized that this is one kind of a book which gives hope, which actually nudges people to come out of any kind of unwarranted situation that they could be in. It's a book of hope, I will say. Yeah.
Yeah, very beautifully said, Devjani. In fact, I wanted to share with our listeners today that you are a professional who's worked in the IT industry. And when you say it can help you face many challenges, and it's a book of hope. So do you see this resonating with, women of all, women and men, in fact, from all different kind of, backdrops, whether they are working or whether they are homemakers and so on. Would you like to just comment on that aspect of the book, that it reaches out to different types of people too?
Yes. So, Meenakshi, first of all, I would want to call out the fact that Mrs. Nina has tried to tell her life story in such a gutsy way. It actually takes guts of steel to be able to tell your very intimate stories, the situations that you have gone through. And in the process, now today, she is on the other end of the spectrum. But people reading this book will actually gain from her experiences, her life lessons in whatever situation that they are in today. For example, if you remove this aspect of infertility from this book and put any other situation, maybe a person going through a divorce or a sick child or any situation that you put that thing into, this book will be as relevant as ever, right? And at the same time, the best part that I felt was that this is not a very preachy kind of a self-help kind of a book, right? It's a very beautifully told story from where you gain experiences, and whichever situation you are in, you come out wiser. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Nina, what would you like to say on hearing Devjani's review of the book?
Yeah, she's put it across so beautifully. Like how she said, I didn't want this book to be a self-help book. There is no dearth of a self-help book in this market now. There are anywhere in any bookstall you go and see, there are only self-help books. Long back, it was what was a place of novels has taken over by the self-help books these days. Wherever you go, it's that. So, I mean, when I thought of writing this book, I never wanted to write it as a book giving people advice, okay, what to do, what not to do. I wanted to tell them, okay, this is what I went through.
Yes, yes. You're sitting at a high pedestal and talking at people that, okay, now I have succeeded. Not like that, yeah.
I mean, I'm one among the reader.
Yes.
I'm part of the reader. And I'm just telling
Yes.
them that this is what I went through. And I'm sure any of you reading this is also going through a situation in life for sure. Because all of us deal with situations in life, different situations. Now, my idea was
Yes.
telling was, okay, this is how I stood strong.
Yes.
This is how I managed and I accepted and I coped when everything was against me. Now,
Yes.
you read this, you get something out of it, and deal with your problem, deal with your issues actually. So this is all that I wanted to write, and I'm so happy that you got it the right thing, the right way, whatever I've written.
Thank you.
Nina,
Thank you.
yeah, sorry. Debjani said something very interesting when she said it's very gutsy. It requires nerves of steel to write about such intimate moments of your journey. Would you like to comment on that? Did it really require a lot of guts and nerves of steel?
See, Meenakshi, if it was me in my 30s, I would have really required a lot of guts to write it. Okay, now I'm matured. I've come to the other side of life, and then life has taught me a lot of lessons and got a lot of experience. So this the guts part was not really required, though people feel. I mean, I don't think that anyone would just accept when I say that it doesn't require guts. It does require guts, definitely, yes. But I thought the point of contribution to the society was much more
Yes.
than thinking about what would happen if I write the story out and put it in the world. What would people think about me? That took a back seat when my contribution was, in the forefront. So guts, yes, definitely yes. When there is somebody who asked me, like, didn't you feel bad that you were writing about this? I said the question of feeling bad was never there. Otherwise, I wouldn't have attempted this book.
Absolutely. So when you are talking about certain situations, Mrs. Nina, or how people are reacting to this phase that you were going through, the various treatments or the insensitive comments or stuff like that, how you dealt with them actually gives a pointer to a person. Yeah, today you are talking in hindsight, right? But people who are today going through those phases, they'll be able to relate very well with those situations,
Of
right?
course.
And yeah, and the way you have dealt with those situations by looking at issues in isolation instead of making your whole life about this one single problem. You have actually showed the reader how each problem is in isolation in its own self, right? Today, if I have weak eyesight, if I'm wearing spectacle, or I broke my wrist, right? My life is not all about my wrist, or if I'm losing hair, or these are situations in itself and can be and should be dealt in isolation. Compartmentalize your situations, and then you realize how many in the balance sheet of our life, against each negative that God has given us, you'll always find your positive much more than the negatives that we tend to focus too much upon and make our life all about that one particular issue, right? So that
Nicely said. Yeah,
Very nicely
especially
said.
the part which you, yeah, because I
Very
think
nicely said.
Nina, some other readers have said something very similar when
Yeah.
they said the beauty of your book is that she carried on with her life. She went for walks, went for holidays, and wasn't obsessed per se. At least the journey that she has recounted doesn't show an obsession with the situation, but also a kind of a holistic 360-degree view of life. So when you say honesty in terms of narrative, Debjani, did you feel that that honesty actually comes and hits the reader very hard? Like somehow we start feeling that we are part of that journey, right?
can I actually take a minute to read through a few lines from this book, since you're talking about, like, what really hits you in terms of obsession that people get into around this topic, right? Here in page number 59, there is a paragraph which really hit me so hard, right? It talks about, I'll just read from the book,
Of course.
if I may.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Uh, a few years back, when we were staying in Tamil Nadu, my cousin had come visiting us and he wanted to meet a doctor friend of his, whom he had not met for a very long time. We found there was something amiss in their house when we went visiting them. Something was strange, as if they were all acting their parts out. Nothing came across as natural. The atmosphere in the house was like a guitar with strings too tight, which could snap off anytime. The doctor, his wife also a doctor, two kids, a girl and a boy, both grown up, and a maid were there. When we were getting introduced, there was some sort of a disconnect, I thought. It was my intuitive mind at work, as always, I thought. Both the kids were in the kitchen with the maid, which was too strange considering their age. We exchanged pleasantries, managed to break the ice. Literally, we had to struggle to make a conversation. Both me and my cousin are the ones who can even make conversation with a blank wall, but still we found it so dry. Finally, we bid goodbye and left. Heaved a sigh of relief once we got out and did discuss the strange behavior and even stranger atmosphere on our way back. Later on, I got to know from a neighbor of theirs that the doctor couple didn't have kids, and the doctor had both kids from the maid, and all of them stayed together. I am aware of such norms prevalent in some communities, but what we saw caught us by surprise. What an environment to live in. A legally wed husband and wife, and another lady with two kids. Whose husband was the doctor then? Can the maid be called a mistress? Numerous questions popped up in my mind. What was the position and the value of the lady doctor in that house? What was she achieving? Didn't she have any self-respect? Why did he still have to keep the maid with them? Couldn't the doctor couple have brought up the kids on their own? What were the choices the doctor had? Either live with the wife happily, or adopt a child, or divorce her and stay with the lady who made him a father and live with his children. Just various options. I think procreation overtook love, and having heirs was more important than having a wife. This actually shook me, Mrs. Meena. I mean, to such extent, people would go obsessing around this aspect and actually reducing their life to only all about procreating. There are many such aspects in this book which actually opened up my eyes. I was not aware, to be honest, that such things happen in our society.
No,
Donna, this is a beautiful passage you read, and I want actually Nina to tell us what prompted her to write about this episode.
Yeah, I mean, okay. There are two things that prompted me to write about this episode. First of all, it shook me thoroughly. When this thing happened and we came out of that house, and then later on when I got to know about this, the whole thing about the reality of that house, it really shook me. And I thought I have to bring it out in this book, because this book is all about, this whole subject is all about infertility only, what I'm writing. Now I thought I should bring it out, and if at all in society somebody is doing this, they should refrain from that.
Yes.
Should really refrain from that. Because see, Meenakshi and Dona, for both of you, I'm telling, when we went into the house, the disconnect was so much. The disconnect was so much that me and my cousin found it very difficult to talk to them, because they were talking. They were all like I wrote. They were acting their parts. The doctor spoke. He said hi. Then he stopped. Then the wife said hi. She stopped. I mean, and all of them were looking towards the kitchen. The kids came. They were introduced. So then I thought maybe my intuitive mind, as always, was working. Then I thought, okay, I kept on telling myself, keep quiet. Don't think. Maybe something is okay. Everything is okay. But again, the kids in the room, especially when they're grown up, that was quite surprising for me. Like, I agree if the kids are only 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, but not when they are their teenage. And
my heart went out to both the ladies, for both of them.
And what was this man achieving actually? And then why keep both of them in that house together?
So, Nina, are you somewhere also addressing the societal stigmas, the taboos, the
Yes, yes.
secrecy, the back talk, the gossip, and all of that?
Gossip, and plus the feeling that without having a kid, I mean, if you don't have a kid, that means your life is, ended there. That means there's nothing beyond that life. If you don't have a kid, that means that's over. I'm addressing that. I'm addressing the thing that nobody has to be so frantic about having a kid. If the kid didn't happen, you go and find out various ways. Okay, he had these two kids with the maid. Like, then either stay with the lady and the two kids as a family. Why does that? I mean, why do you play around the emotions of two ladies actually?
But at that time, when it actually happened, Nina, it must have impacted you in a very different way. Because
Very
today you
different.
are looking at it in hindsight, right?
It's a different state, but that day, that time I was okay. I already had my son that time. My son was around 3 years that time, but still it impacted me a lot. I was thinking, my God, I mean, is it true? What I saw, was it true? Of course, I mean, I know again in the chapter, I mean, after that paragraph, I've written about my maid who has a kid like that, but then at least she only was staying with the kids and the husband alone. Like, the other lady was not there. So it was much easier. I thought Meenakshi playing around, I've addressed playing around with the lady's emotions.
Yeah.
And what is your priority in life? Is you are wedded to a lady? Is that relationship more than having a kid? What is more important for you? So many aspects that I address in that. And I thought if I
No, very nice.
bring it out because many places, these are all very prevalent in even today. Even today it's happening. So if somebody reads this book, suppose somebody it may not be happening in the urban areas, but rural, definitely it may be happening. So I was thinking, if somebody happens to read that, and if they talk about it, and if they can prevent it, why not?
I think by lifting the secrecy, and this is what I want, Donna also to comment on, that by talking about a subject which is sensitive, a little bit controversial also because people will have their own thoughts, but
Yes, yes.
mostly a subject that people don't want to address. This is an issue which nobody really wants to address.
Nobody wants
So
it.
I think Debjani meant that when she said that it's very bold, it's very brave, and it requires guts. Am I right? Is that what you feel, Donna?
Absolutely. So, Meenakshi, first of all, a child, it supposed to be a product of love and bonding between a couple, right? But what, as a society, what we turn it into ultimately, I mean, a child cannot be a product of stress, right? So this book actually trivializes this whole like 9 yards around this whole process, of all the stress that people go through trying to achieve that. And actually, fertility and stress are two totally opposite, diametrically opposite emotions, right? How can a child happen where there is stress? And unfortunately, people who are actually going through this problem are the ones who are at most stress.
Of course.
So,
Very well said.
yeah,
Very well said. Yeah. Nina, what do you feel? Are you also addressing the stress levels or the mental health issue which infertile couples or even family around them tend to get into?
Of course, Meenakshi, that is my biggest this point that I'm putting it across is like uh, any anything that we have to like if you anything that is causing stress will never give you results, especially when you're going through an infertility treatment. If the treatment has to work for you, your stress level has to be really, really down.
yes.
Not only infertility, anything that you're working on. If you have to get results, your stress has to be down. So I would really like to, for me, when I'm having I mean, I'm planning to have sessions for couples dealing with infertility. So my whole idea is to get their stress down, somehow get their stress down if things have to work for them.
No, I think that's a very good outcome of the book. But when you actually set out to write a book, you said, I just wanted to tell my story. Uh, so how do you think your own thought about what you expected and what is the result, Nina, when you are listening to readers and having these conversations? Do you feel like you actually achieved more than you set out to achieve?
Of course, Meenakshi, because see, when I started writing the book, like I've told many times, it was an assignment that I had to complete and do for a coaching course that I underwent. So then from there, I made it into this book of 170 plus pages. Now, from the beginning, I always wanted to write. My stress was on the most important point that I wanted to bring out in the book is get your stress down. Because in my case, whenever I've conceived twice, and then I had a miscarriage, and then my son was born. So both the times I never had stress. So for me, it was evidence that if there is no stress, things will work. So this is what I wanted to tell the infertile couple. So it started off as writing for infertility only, but somehow it materialized into a book which can be used for any situation. So like you said,
That's
Meenakshi,
amazing.
I think more than what I expected came out from the book.
Yeah, I think the reader response is such.
Yes.
Debjani, if you had to recommend this book to somebody, what would be your, kind of, how will you give them an intro to the book?
So this book actually is relevant for anybody who's looking for a simplified way to bring up oneself in life, in all. It instills confidence in a person. It actually makes you look back at yourself in a 360 degree way, in terms like how you are first of all treating yourself. For example, most of us tend to be pretty much critical about our own self. When it comes to self-love, we are most of the time very low on that, right? We are constantly doubting ourselves. We are constantly thinking negative. And when it comes to surrendering yourself to a situation, or having faith in Almighty on some things, we tend to do just the pole opposite of all these things. So this book kind of shakes you up. It's almost like a reminding to all of us on what are the simple ways to bring yourself up and out of any negative situation that you are in, and how to cope with it, how to deal with it, and in a very simple fashion. And most importantly, I love the happy ending. It's almost like a very good movie with a happy ending. And I would highly recommend anybody to read this book. Absolutely.
That's so lovely. I love the way she says it's like a movie. In fact, it's called Just a Miracle. But the beauty of it is that Nina says it's not about my eventually having a baby. Of course, that's a beautiful part. But it's
Yeah.
really about my journey being some sort of an inspiration for others. Like you said, to love themselves,
Yes.
to be, kind to themselves and to others. I wanted Donna to comment on that. Do you feel that the way you would now deal with any, say, couple going through any problem, you would be more empathetic, Donna?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, if you look at the last chapters where it talks about takeaways or myths around infertility, uh, I have had so many friends who have faced this situation, but I have never really gone into such details, and have never known these issues in such details. So it definitely makes me wiser on how to, interact with people who are having this problem. And absolutely, I mean, this makes any reader wiser at the end of the reading. Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you, Donna, because it's helped me also to understand not only the subject matter more, but
Yeah.
also not to be very intrusive with your questioning, to be a little more careful about what you say, particularly when the person is themselves going through a little bit of a, setback or difficulty. So thank you again to the author, Nina, to the reader, Debjani, and to this opportunity to be together to talk about this book, Just a Miracle. And thank you, Donna, for reading out some passage. And I think that passage was a very revelatory kind of a passage for me, and I think for the author also,
Of course.
Nina.
Especially if she was reading out, I was thinking, oh my God, were there so many things that I've written down in that. In fact,
Yeah, so it's a reminder of
reminder and
all that
then,
work that you
yeah.
put in.
And not only
Yeah.
that, Meenakshi, every time I have an interaction with the reader, like I told yesterday also, it's a reminder to me also, my God, did you manage to write all this?
No, you really must pat yourself on the back, because writing is one part, but to be able to touch anyone's heart through your words, I think that's very special. And on that very happy note, thank you once again, Nina and Debjani. It's good
Thank
for
you.
all three of us to have this talk and to kind of understand each other and society better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Dona. Thank you, Meenakshi. Bye-bye.